As the early window of games closed in Week 9 of the 2023 NFL season, all eyes were on rookie quarterback CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans offense, as they trotted out onto the field down 37-33 with 46 seconds remaining in regulation. Before the first play of the desperation drive that would follow, ESPN's win probability model gave Houston less than a 10% chance to turn this likely loss into a win. It was a huge moment for the Texans. Though Stroud had shown promise in the first half of his rookie season, the team was off to a rocky start, plagued by injuries, led by an inexperienced coaching staff, and coming off of a brutal loss to the, at the time, winless Carolina Panthers. The situation provided Stroud with a chance to show Houston that he was the one who could breathe new life into a disenchanted fan base, and he did not let that opportunity go to waste. On the first play of the drive, Houston called a dagger concept, and Tampa Bay went with a soft Tampa 2 zone coverage. The play calls on both the offensive and defensive side are common for the situation. The offense, with nothing to lose, made an aggressive call designed to target the dig route from Nico Collins about 20 yards downfield, while the defense, with everything to lose, is being more conservative, keeping all of the receivers in front of them in a soft zone coverage with 2 deep safeties. Post-snap, Stroud sees the linebackers getting quite a bit of depth, which leaves Dalton Schultz wide open underneath, who picks up 14 yards. After a timeout, Houston set up on their own 39-yard line and called a stops concept against another Tampa 2 look from the defense. Knowing he still has a timeout to spare, Stroud again takes what the defense gives him by checking down to Schultz in the flat for a gain of 6 yards. At this point, Houston is out of timeouts, so the checkdowns against soft zone coverage won't cut it anymore. Predictably, Tampa Bay stays in this Tampa 2 look, and this time, Texans offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick dialed up a concept designed to take advantage of the defensive call. One of the defining qualities of a standard Tampa 2 coverage like this is the middle linebacker's rotation to the deep middle of the field. And as great of an athlete as Devin White is, there isn't much he can do to prevent Noah Brown from coming open on this stop route. Stroud hits Brown on time to pick up 14 yards, but with no timeouts, he has to spike it on the following play. With just 16 seconds left on the clock and 41 yards to the end zone, Stroud knows he needs to take a shot here, and the defensive backs know it too. The Bucs call Tampa 2 again, and Houston attempts to exploit that call with a deep smash concept to the strong side. But this is a really tough concept to execute in this situation. The wide corners in this Tampa 2 coverage are coached to sync with the number 1 receiver until there's a threat in the flat. So to open up the hole between the wide corner and the safety, Stroud has to convince that wide corner that he's targeting Dalton Schultz in the flat. This is where the discipline that Stroud displayed on the plays leading up to this one pays off. He's been taking what the defense gives him all the way down the field. So when his eyes shoot to Schultz in the flat, Bucs corner Zion McCollum bites. That creates just enough space for Stroud to find Tank Dell and lead him to the sideline. The head fake that McCollum bit on here was so subtle that you can barely see it from the end zone angle. But it caused him to hesitate, and that's all it took. Even after that 26-yard gain, Houston still had to score from 15 yards out with only 10 seconds on the clock and no timeouts. This time, the Texans went empty with the back out wide and a bunch formation to the strong side. On the defensive side, the wide corners and safeties are all lined up at roughly the same depth, which makes this a pretty clear quarters look. And Coach Slowick called a great concept for attacking quarters. It tells the tight end, Dalton Schultz, to run an outbreaker from the number 3 spot, Noah Brown to run an over route from the number 2 spot, and Tank Dell to run a post route with a wide stem from the number 1 spot. It functions like a Mills concept, where the playside safety is dragged by the number 2, opening up a window for the number 1 on his post route. Everything about this play, the call, the post-snap process, the timing, the route, not to mention the situation, is just awesome. Stroud first looks to the weak side to confirm the quarter's call, then to the number 2 to drag the strong side safety away from the window, and he begins his throwing motion before Tank Dell even breaks inside. The ball's halfway there before Dell even looks for it, and the placement couldn't be any more perfect. That last second touchdown gave Houston the lead with 6 seconds to go, and capped off a special performance from CJ Stroud. He finished with 470 passing yards, the most by a rookie in league history, along with 5 touchdowns and no picks. It's easy to forget that Stroud was a rookie last season because his tape looks like the work of a seasoned franchise quarterback. The traits that typically take years for pro quarterbacks to develop, like coverage recognition, timing, and eye discipline, are already areas where Stroud excels. Here, Houston is facing 3rd and 13 from their own 42-yard line at the end of the first half in a tight game against the Bengals. Cincinnati's in a cryptic formation pre-snap. They've got the right side of the offensive line loaded up with 2 linebackers walked up on the line of scrimmage, and coverage-wise, they could roll into pretty much anything from this 2-high safety look with the wide corners about 8 yards off the line of scrimmage. To account for a possible blitz, the Texans assign the tight end, the back, and the slot receiver to check and release, meaning before those guys run a route, they'll stay in to pick up the extra pass rushers. Houston's route concept calls for staggered stop routes from the number 1 receivers and shallow checkdowns from the extra pass protectors. Post-snap, Stroud identifies the coverage before even reaching the top of his drop back by keying the 2 deep safeties. To the weak side, he sees quarters, which essentially puts a double team, or cone bracket, on Tank Dell. To the strong side, he sees cover 2, which creates a window for Noah Brown's deep stop route. But the hook zone linebacker, Logan Wilson, is in that window. So in order to move him out of the middle of the field, Stroud looks at the tight end in the flat, then delivers a perfect ball placed on Brown's outside shoulder, allowing him to create yards after the catch. When we switch to the end zone angle, you can see how Stroud's eye work made this play possible. You can see him quickly ID the quarter-half coverage look, then shoot his eyes to the flat, moving the linebacker away from the window he wants to target. This was a cryptic pre-snap look on a key 3rd down in a tight game, and Stroud executed Coach Slowick's play call to perfection. The seamlessness of plays like this is one of the many qualities of Stroud's tape that makes it so unique for a rookie quarterback. The mental side of his game is refined by the time he so clearly spends getting reps in during the week. Coach Slowick loves to call these quick-hitting, skinny in-breaking routes for Nico Collins from the X spot because Collins is so good at using his frame to win leverage battles. But because they work in such tight windows, connecting with these routes requires perfect timing and placement. Here, for example, it's 3rd and 1, and the defense is in a man coverage look with the corners pressed on all 3 receivers. When Tank Dell goes in motion, Houston's formation becomes 4 strong, or 4-by-1, isolating Nico Collins on the weak side. Post-snap, Stroud sees the weak side safety's blitz, confirming the man-free look that leaves the intermediate middle of the field wide open. Look at where Collins was in this route when Stroud let go of the ball. This mastery of timing and placement is the result of reps upon reps with his number 1 guy during the week and over the offseason. Stroud's ability to anticipate is so good that sometimes his receivers can't keep up. On multiple occasions last season, Stroud threw perfect balls that went right through the hands of his receivers because they couldn't locate the ball in time to make the catch. But that's how advanced Stroud is in key developmental areas. Even when defenses throw exotic looks at him, he executes like he's seeing the coverage develop in slow motion. Houston's Week 10 game against Cincinnati came down to this 3rd and 6 from the Houston 29-yard line with 42 seconds left on the clock. Bengals defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo is a wizard with his coverage rotations on passing downs, and this play is an example of how misleading Cincinnati's pre-snap looks can be. It looks like cover 0 all the way. There are 4 defensive backs aligned in off coverage opposite the 4 receivers, and the line of scrimmage is loaded up with 7 defenders. But Cincinnati isn't sending a blitz at all. They're bluffing the 0 look and rolling into cover 3 with a 4-man rush. Post-snap, when Stroud sees the coverage rotation, he doesn't panic. He keys the post safety to identify the cover 3 look, and once the coverage is identified, he knows exactly where to go with the ball. The biggest weakness of a spot drop 3-deep coverage like this is the seams in between the wide corners playing the deep thirds and the post safety. So Stroud wants Dalton Schultz on that seam route. But first, he looks to John Mechie on a stop route coming from the other side. That eye movement holds the linebackers in place over the middle, allowing Stroud to layer this ball over the linebackers and in between the defensive backs to pick up 25 yards. 2 plays later, Houston would kick the game-winning field goal as the clock ran down to zeros. Stroud saw a similar look back in Week 3 against Jacksonville. The defensive formation leaves the post empty, which strongly suggests that a blitz is coming. So Houston again calls for 3 eligible receivers to check and release in case of a heavy blitz, and downfield they call a 2-man play-action concept known as Yankee. The concept tells Robert Woods to run a deep over route coming from the top of your screen, and Tank Dell to run a skinny post coming from the bottom. The defense is bluffing this blitz look and rolling into cover 3 with Rayshawn Jenkins playing the post from close to the line of scrimmage. And when Stroud sees this post-snap rotation, he knows he's got the secondary beat. The wide corner to the bottom of your screen, Darius Williams, is playing heavy outside leverage like he has inside help, which technically he does from Jenkins. But Jenkins can't recover in time to turn his head and make a play on the ball. Stroud threads the needle and gets 46 yards on a calculated shot downfield. Relative to some of the league's best quarterbacks, Stroud is still a conservative passer, just like he was at Ohio State. His average depth of target was high as a rookie, but that was a result of Houston's emphasis on the intermediate area of the field, especially on those play-action crossing concepts that they call so often. Despite that high ADOT, he didn't take an enormous amount of shots downfield last year. When a deep throw is defined as a pass that travels at least 20 yards in the air beyond the line of scrimmage, Stroud's regular season deep throw rate was 11.4%, which ranked 19th highest among quarterbacks who threw at least 25 deep passes during the regular season. He didn't take shots all that often, but when he did, he was overwhelmingly successful. When targeting a receiver more than 20 yards downfield, Stroud completed 56% of his passes, averaged 19.5 yards per attempt, and posted a passer rating of 140.5. He was also one of 3 quarterbacks who did not throw a pick, and had the lowest turnover-worthy play rate among deep passing qualifiers. It often takes years for quarterbacks to find that healthy balance between conservativeness and aggressiveness, and Stroud seems to have already found it. His accuracy and athletic ability are obvious on a down-to-down basis, but the mental side is what sets Stroud apart from other young quarterbacks around the league. When his poise is tested, he shows up, which might be more valuable than any other trait he has. The further I got into Stroud's tape, the more confident I grew in his ability to perform in key situations. When the Texans need the offense to make a play, Stroud inspires trust, and that's a rare feeling to have when you're watching a rookie quarterback. Thank you guys so much for watching this week's video. If you'd like to support the channel, you can check out my Patreon and Twitter, both of which will be linked in the description. I will be back a week from today with something. Not exactly sure what yet, but until then, peace.